Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty wild, a really complex prophetic worldview we found in a fascinating series of texts and images. We're going to walk through this source material to understand the story it's telling, a story where reality is basically a computer program, and that program is about to be completely rewritten. All right, let's jump right in. The basic idea here, from the source material, is that our reality isn't just random. Nope. It's a coded system, almost like a computer program, and it's got an expiration date. It suggests everything history, politics, even our own bodies are all part of a program that's now reaching its scheduled end. So that leads to this huge question, right? This is the central idea we're going to unpack today, and it comes straight from the source. What if our world was a program, and it's about to be totally rewritten? Okay, so before we get to the big reset, we've got to understand how this whole system is set up in the first place. We need to get a handle on the idea that reality itself is, well, a hidden system, and it's definitely not what it looks like on the surface. So check this out. The story goes that underneath everything we think of as history, all the ancient scrolls and stories, there's actually a hidden code. And here's the kicker, it's malfunctioning. The whole system has been running on bad data for a really long time. And this right here, this is the core conflict. The whole system, according to the text, was originally built on stone. Truth, something solid and stable. But then it got corrupted by flesh. The source is super blunt about this, saying a human is basically the last thing you should ever trust. And what fuels all this corruption? Empty words. The text literally calls it blah, 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 over and over again. All right, so we've got the what, this corruption of truth. Now let's get into the when, because the source material is very specific about the timeline for this massive system error. So the text points to this really specific 70-year window from 1956 all the way to 2026. This period is described as the absolute peak of the system's malfunction. It's called an era of madness, a time when humanity just became completely unplugged from the basic truth of the system. And right at the heart of this 70-year glitch, there's this ruling force that the source calls the slippery king. Now, this isn't some literal king on a throne. It's more like a protocol, a way of using power that's all about flattery, manipulation, and just empty promises. It's a system that actually gets stronger the more it lies. So what you're looking at is basically a total system overload. All that blah, 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 all the lies, all the empty political promises. It's just too much. The system can't handle the weight of it anymore. It's like the main processor, the brain of the whole thing, is overheating, and a total collapse is pretty much inevitable. Okay, so the whole thing crashes. System failure. Now what? How does a program like this fix itself? Well, according to this narrative, it's not just some simple software patch. We're talking about a complete, top-to-bottom purge, a total cleansing. The source lays out this three-stage purification process, and it actually pulls these terms from the book of Daniel. First up is sifting. Think of it like a giant sieve separating those who are aligned with truth from those who aren't. Then comes refining, a super intense, fiery process that burns away all the impurities, all the lies and ego. And finally, you have smelting, where whatever's left is forged into something totally new, something solid and incorruptible. But here's what's really fascinating about this fire. The source makes it clear that this refining isn't some external flame coming to get you. No, it's an internal combustion. The frequency of truth itself becomes so powerful, so intense, that all the lies a person has built their life on, they literally become the fuel that burns them from the inside out. There's a quote that says it all. Your breath is the fire that consumes you. So this whole purification thing, it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. According to the source, it's more like a hard fork in the code of reality. It splits everything, leading to two completely different outcomes for humanity. And you can really see the visual contrast here. The source material paints a very clear picture of these two paths. On one hand, you've got this world of light, of stability, that's the successful reboot, and on the other, a world of total ruin and disgrace, like a permanent ghost image of the old collapsed system. So here's the bottom line. One path leads to this incredible upgrade, both physically and spiritually. You become what the text calls a new human. But the other path? That leads to a state of self-consumption, where people literally become torches of disgrace, just forever burning with the lies they chose to live. And this idea of eternal disgrace, the text defines it in a really interesting way. It's not the fire and brimstone you might be thinking of. It's more like permanent digital obsolescence. They become frozen data, corrupted files that the new system just can't run. And the source really hammers this home. They're not destroyed, they're just there, fully aware of the beautiful working reality they rejected, but totally locked out. That constant awareness, that's the disgrace. Okay, but enough about all that doom and gloom, right? Let's talk about the other side of the coin. The final positive outcome described in this narrative, the genesis of a totally new kind of human. I mean, look at this. The source describes this radical physical change. We're not just talking about a new way of thinking. This is a fundamental upgrade to the hardware itself, to our actual biology. So the idea is a total shift from a fragile body of flesh to one made of something like stone or metal. It's described as coppery, totally stable, and get this, immune to decay, immune to pain and disease. It even specifically calls out things like fibromyalgia being gone, no more need for medications. This new body basically runs on a clean internal frequency plugged directly into the source code of truth. And of course, this new human gets a new world to live in, one that isn't built on the, shifting sands of human opinions and empty words. It's built on that unshakable foundation of stone, on a permanent truth that's literally etched into the fabric of reality. So after all of that, the complex prophecies, the codes, the crazy transformations, what does it actually take to get through this system reset? The source says it all comes down to one simple rule. One command to get into this new reality. So we've just walked through this incredible prophecy of a system rebooting itself, purging all the lies to create a new kind of humanity. And the source material leaves us with this one really provocative final thought. In a world that's collapsing under the weight of blah, 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 it suggests survival isn't about some secret knowledge or complex ritual. It's about a commitment to one single thing: love, the truth, and the peace. And that, I think, leaves us with the ultimate question to chew on. What would it actually mean for a reality to have only one rule?